Hi everyone, welcome back to the 86 Epstein podcast. I am joined by a very special guest today. It is my first ever guest on the pod, my very best friend Carli Cutler.
Hey everyone!
Welcome. So we are here to talk about a topic, as you can tell by the title, we're 86ing, feeling like we're too much, and this is something that we are both very, very passionate about. But before we get into the topic, I wanted to have Carli introduce herself and talk a little bit about how we met and our friendship, because I think we have one of the most beautiful friendships in the entire world. So we're going to just chat about that a little bit and kind of how we feel so passionate about things in general, because that's kind of the vibe here today. So tell us a little bit about Carli.
Yeah, well, I'm Carli. Allie is my best friend. That's the first thing to know about me. I've lived in Philly with Allie and our other roommate Olivia for 2 years. I coach college softball, and I'm getting ready to move home to Nevada to coach at University of Nevada, Reno next week. So,
we're so excited that we were able to get a podcast in before she leaves. But obviously we'll visit and we'll have her on again because we're so passionate about many, many, many topics.
Yes.
So this is just one of many that we wanted to get into today.
Do you want to tell the story of how we met?
I would love to, and you can chime in as well. Yeah. But if you know me, you also probably already know Carli, but you know that we worked in Costa Rica the summer of 2021. We were mentors for a high school female athletes leadership camp, and one day we were back to being on Zoom, and like when we first met, we both just like knew from the vibe.
Yeah, no, on the camera was like, that she's gonna be my best friend. She seems like the coolest person, and I need her to be my best friend.
But it was mutual. Like we both were like, yeah, you're coming home with me.
You're gonna be my best friend.
Exactly. And so then once we finally got to Costa Rica, we were out in the waves one day with our high school girls, and I think we had been,
it was like day 3,
yeah.
And we were in camp counselor vibes very quickly.
Exactly. And we were just out there, and like, mind you, we're in bathing suits and like sports bras and tank tops all day long because it's Costa Rica and we are living at the beach, and we were just chit-chatting about our bodies.
Just certain body image issues, and we were both at the time fresh out of being college athletes. Yes. And figuring out how to be exercisers. Yes. After college and the whole 9. So we're just feeling our feelings.
Yeah, we were feeling it. And then out of the blue, a massive Costa Rican ocean wave.
We get absolutely decked.
Demolished. And it was literally like the universe being like, shut up, you're beautiful, your bodies have done so much for you. Like, we just got legitimately smacked in the face for saying bad things about ourselves.
But then when we were able to come up for air, we got absolutely decked again. It was... I saw my life flash before my eyes in that moment.
Yeah, the universe made sure we knew we were being absolutely ridiculous.
But nothing brings two people together like almost dying from a big wave coming out of nowhere.
And so we finally got our bearings, and we were like, okay, we fully took that summer and turned our perspective all around. And like, I really feel like us, like, we worked out together, and that really helped heal my relationship with exercise post, like Carli said, post college athletics. So like, that was like one of the coolest things that came, besides our friendship, but came out of that summer for me.
Yeah. And I think something that also came out of like how our friendship evolved over that summer was we really held each other accountable. Mm-hmm. In many ways, both in exercise, but in our attitudes. And yes. If we started going down a negative route, we held each other accountable in, I think, the most beautiful way. And I think it taught me how to hold myself accountable better, but also how to have hard conversations, yeah. But knowing that, like, with someone that I love, having a hard conversation.
Yes, we definitely, like, learned. We grew so much in that summer as individuals, but as, like, how to have conversations with people and interact with people in ways that we haven't had to in the past. But yeah, obviously, since it's been 3 years that we've known each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2021.
3 years.
Yeah, it's, like, exactly 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, we would have just been finishing up the summer.
Yeah.
In Costa Rica. So now we've really evolved, and I think we've become really great listeners for each other, and we're both very empathetic and feel very, very deeply, and that's something that we have in common. And if you hear Puda in the background, I apologize. We're just getting through this. He probably will bark a little bit because he has FOMO. But yeah, we're goofballs together. We have a lot of the same energy, and we're just really excited to be doing this pod today because we feel very similarly about a lot of things.
Yeah, I think our friendship is one of those that I just feel so eternally grateful that I found someone that, one, has made me a better person, but has also been a great listener, has given me the best advice, and has also just allowed me to be myself. And I think that is the most beautiful thing about friendship, and I wish everyone could have a friendship like ours.
Yeah, it's like the same both ways. It goes both ways, and I feel like a lot of people, it's not like that all the time. So
we love each other so much.
It's magical. Yeah. Well, we could do a whole podcast about being obsessed with each other, but
that's not what you're listening for.
Yeah. So yes, today's topic is 86 feeling like we're too much, and that can mean, you know, people telling us we're too emotional, we're too sensitive, we are too much to handle, or we like require too much effort.
We're too goofy.
Yes, it's really when there's the word "too" in front of anything, and
yeah,
it's
too
like,
much of something.
Yeah, of something, exactly. And I think why this is so important to both of us is because we're both people that have been told, and maybe not necessarily the words like "you are too much," but by people's actions, by how they interact with us, we've been made to feel like we're too much, or made to feel small, or shut down in many, many times in situations in different areas of our lives. So, and we both worked so hard to like overcome that in the most recent years. So I feel like we are not experts, but we are like, we're good to talk about this because we're doing the work, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that I have had to grapple with, and I think it has impacted me in my younger years in friendships, or feeling like I could make deep connections. And I think that is also what's so great about our friendship and our dynamic is I think I've learned through our friendship that I'm not too much of anything. And I think that's really cool and what's really special about this conversation we're going to have.
Things that people can do to kind of like make somebody feel like they're too much. And I'm sure we've all like accidentally done this to people, but we're just talking about this to kind of like, if people have done this and you don't even realize that that's kind of like how it's making you feel. That's the first reason we're talking about this, but also like you could be making people feel small like accidentally. So we just are like bringing awareness to that. Like it's really easy to make somebody feel like they're being too much, and it's could be unintentional, but literally, I mean, obviously saying the words like you're being too sensitive, you're being too much, you're being too emotional.
Or like, I don't know why you're even feeling this way. Right. Or people will joke around like, I'll be like, oh, I was really emotional. And they're like, oh, of course you were. What's new? Right. And they think that's funny, but that's something that I can immediately recognize that you're not even in touch enough with your emotions because you can't handle that I'm emotional.
Yeah, that is such a good point.
Yeah, and that's something I think I think this week someone said that I'm getting ready to uproot and move my life. And I mentioned that I was really emotional, and someone quite literally said, you emotional? And I'm like, that's not the joke that you think it is. I don't really think that's funny, because I feel like you're making a mockery of me being in touch with all the emotions that a person could feel. Right. And I think that's a beautiful thing in life.
It's a skill. I feel like what happens to me a lot is like I'll get shushed when I'm like laughing too loud or having too much fun in public, or like just like being goofy in like the Target aisle, and it's like I'm like embarrassing people that are with me, and like that always shuts me down and makes me feel like I'm being like too much. And I'm like, these people that are just shopping like literally could not care less about what I'm doing and how I'm having fun. Like,
and if they do, they have so much that they need to work on.
They have bigger fish to fry. Yes. And it's also like, I will never see these people again. Back to episode 1. Why am I going to care what they think about me? Like, I'm never going to see these people again.
No, and I think going back to something that you said in episode 1, you said, I'm way too busy caring about myself, that why would I care about other people? And something along those lines. No, exactly. And it's like, if someone feels like I'm being too much of something, they certainly have bigger issues that are at play, and that should not be something that impacts how I feel about how I'm interacting in the world or experiencing the world.
Totally. Or, you know, people like not necessarily meeting our emotional needs is another way that people can make people feel like they're too much, and that I feel like happens more in like dating or even like family members, you know, having conversations with like anyone, like where they just are like not able to understand, like you said, like why are you feeling it's not that big of a deal, like when they just aren't even able to empathize or put themselves in someone else's shoes for 2 seconds and like understand like, okay, maybe this isn't something that would make me that emotional, but I see you're very emotional, how can I help? Like, instead of being like, it's really not that big of a deal, like, no, it is, because clearly I'm upset, so clearly it's a big deal to me, so treat it like a big deal. Like, if you care about me, you should care about me being upset about something. Like,
no, I think that goes along the lines as well as something I've experienced, and I don't want to speak for both of us, but having lived privileged lives, that I personally have not had a lot of like these big struggles because of I have financially had a good life and haven't had to go through many challenging things in that regard, but I can still experience emotion and challenging things, and that's something I've experienced in my dating life, of being shamed that I'm having emotions or I'm experiencing feelings in the world because I didn't have these challenges growing up. And I think that's something that I've also had to overcome, because I used to shame myself for that. Well, I'm feeling too much of this.
Yeah.
I have it good. Why should I be feeling like that? And I think that's something that we all experience the world, and it's okay, even though I was privileged, that I feel certain ways, certain things.
Totally. It's like saying like, oh, I'm not allowed to feel bad about this situation because there's people starving in other countries. Like, of course. Like, there's always people that have it worse, of course. But that does not invalidate the way that I'm feeling about something, whether it's a small little thing that I'm going to get over by tomorrow or something that is going to take me months to get over. Like, I'm still valid in my feelings. And my shirt literally says, your emotions are valid. So if you're on YouTube, take a little peek. But like,
your emotions are valid.
Like, no matter what, like, the situation is, like, however you feel is okay to feel that. And even if it's like tomorrow you wake up and you're like, okay, I was being a little dramatic, but like, you still were feeling those emotions in that moment, and that is okay.
No, the dramatic word is truly, I find myself when I'm sharing a story almost setting it up so I'm not told I'm too dramatic, and I'll say, well, I know I'm dramatic, and I'm saying that because I don't want someone to hit that at the end, like hit me with the punchline, oh, you're too dramatic. I'm like,
you're getting ahead of it.
I'm getting ahead of it. And sometimes I use it as a joke, but I think when you experience the world like we do and you feel things, people think you're being dramatic a lot of the times.
Totally.
And I will, fine, I'm a drama queen. I'll be one. I'm happy to be called a drama queen. Fine.
Call me a drama queen. Don't care. No, that's such a great point. Or like people saying like, it's not that deep. Like, okay, maybe to you, like,
but to me,
and if it is,
I feel like this right now, maybe I just need to feel like this for 5 seconds, and then I'll be like, okay, it's not that deep anymore, but it was in that moment. That's how I was feeling.
Yeah. So yeah, talking about all of our like personal experiences and things that people have done to make us feel that way, we can now kind of segue into talking about things that we have learned and tools that we have come up with in the past few years to kind of navigate and overcome feeling like we're too much or we're too sensitive. And like I said in the beginning, like, we're obviously not experts at this, like, we're not therapists or professionals, but we are equipped to talk about it because we're currently doing the work. Like I've said in every episode, like, these are all journeys. Like, obviously we're not going to wake up tomorrow and just not all of a sudden not feel like we're too much or not care what people think. Like I said, these are starting points. That's what these episodes are for us to eventually work on being better at not caring and not feeling in these certain ways. But one way I think, and this is a test to our friendship, is to just surround yourself with people that don't make you feel like you're being too much and that validate your feelings. Like, that is probably the biggest tip we could give, right?
No,
like
100%. My dad has said this since as long as I can remember, but surround yourself with people that make you the best version of you.
Love it.
And that has always been in my brain, and like, you are the 5 people that you spend your most time with, and sometimes you don't have a choice over who those people are at work, for example, but the people you are choosing should be people that fill your cup every day, overflow your cup with feeling like you are a phenomenal human being.
Yeah, you're enough and you're valid. That is such a good point. I love that.
Something that I've learned, and I listened to this, I heard this in a Jay Shetty podcast, our man, I know you've mentioned him, that there should be, not everyone is going to fill a need for you. So, for example, if I'm feeling very emotional someday, there might be, like, I might not talk to someone who's not necessarily on the emotional level that I am when I'm feeling emotional and I need someone to listen to me. But maybe that person is someone when I have really exciting news, they're going to be someone to bounce off the wall. So just recognizing that there's different people where I might feel like I'm being too emotional when I share emotional news with them because they're not at that level or they haven't connected with themselves much emotionally, or they're just not emotional people. Yeah. And that's okay. So I recognizing that not everyone is going to fill that need for you, I think is something that I've learned is, okay, when I've shared this, I've felt too much, but in other areas of my life, I don't feel like that with them. So just recognizing not everyone is going to be what you need them to be for you.
That is such a good point, and I've experienced that, and my mom has also shared that same advice of like, my mom was like, you can come to me with anything and I will give you like the reaction you want, but like it's not going to be like that for everybody. And it's like, I feel like us, like we can go with anything. Like we share the stupidest things and we're like, yes, like freaking out, and I'm like, thank you, I knew you would match my energy.
Like, or, I do a backflip when you tell me that who would have learned a new trick today.
Like, and it's like, that is what we need. And then also if it's like really sad news, like we will just sit and like be there and listen and just be there. Like,
no, I will literally walk into your room and lay in your bed and cry and not ask for anything and then just leave. And I think that is really beautiful.
Really magical.
And in this specific podcast, I think there was like 5 things that maybe it's like when you're sad, when you're happy, I don't, all 5 different things. Yeah. And he was like, most people in your life like might give you 1.
Wow.
If you find someone that gives you 2, 3, 4, even 5, like that is someone, like hold on to that soulmate person because that's really special. But also when we have expectations of someone to be something that maybe they can't be for us, that then almost becomes on us. Yeah. And I think like that is something that I'm learning and navigating in important relationships in my life is okay, well, I can't be upset with them because they can't meet me there, and that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. Is like when you're going into especially new friendships or new relationships, or like kind of just like surveying and like testing out, almost like studying them and being like, okay, what, not in a selfish way of like, what can this person be for me, but just like, what can I bring to them that's not going to like disappoint me?
Right.
And then it's like beneficial for them too, because they're not being put into a situation where they're like feeling like they're not good enough for you and they're not able to, like, that's like really high level thinking.
It is.
It's like really just trying to make everyone be the best version of themselves and being like, okay, I'm going to go to Car when this happens, or I'm going to go to my mom when this happens, or, actually I need my dad to just kind of tell me how it is today, you know, like, and it's really okay to have those people that aren't everything. Like that makes so much sense. That's such a good point.
100%. And I think also like going off of that and thinking about who we're surrounding ourselves with, something that therapy has taught me is really paying attention to like how I feel physically when I'm around someone. So if I physically do not feel right, I don't want to say that I don't trust that person, but maybe that's not someone who's going to make me feel like the best version of myself.
Yeah, I mean, our bodies tell us so much. Like, we both have so many examples of just, like, feeling like something is off, and then, like, a week later, it all comes to fruition, and we're like, we freaking knew it. Like, you just know. Like, the female intuition is not to be messed with.
It is real.
It is real. It is powerful. And, like, I mean, everyone's intuition is, you should trust it, but, like, I'm telling you, us women, you know
trust
things.
That. Especially when you've done the work to know yourself.
Exactly.
And then I can actually truly trust what my body's telling me.
Right.
But on that, I think something that this last year of my life has taught me is, one, not everyone deserves my too muchness.
Yes.
However, I might be in environments where I can't change the way people are, and I might not be able to get out of that environment as quickly as maybe I'd want to, and I'm not going to let that person or that environment make me feel like I have to change who I am. So I think something I've learned in this year is how to not feel like I have to hold myself back, even though maybe I don't feel right around certain people.
No, that's such a good point, because like at jobs or like certain family members that you have to interact with, like there's times where you just have to be around people that maybe don't fill your cup, and it's so powerful to like be able to not take on whatever they're projecting onto us and like let that affect how we feel about ourselves. Like that is a skill.
100%. Yeah. And on all this, just a story that I wanted to share, and I think something that both you and I have felt challenged with as we become professionals and adults is the feeling of being too childlike. And I know that's something that you struggle with and are working to change your narrative that you tell yourself around. Something that this happened this past season, one of my players in the airport, I just like went up to her and I was like, hey, what's up? What are you doing? And was probably just being really silly. And she was like, Coach Carli, sometimes I forget that you're my coach because you're just so silly and goofy. But she wasn't saying that in a disrespectful disrespectful way because she 100% respected me as her coach. Like we had a really great dynamic, but I loved that because I think sometimes what gets lost as we become professionals or when we're young and we feel like we have to create boundaries as professionals, we lose that silly, goofy side of us. And that's something that I never want to lose is being just... we love enjoying life. I think that's something that you and I share is just this, we want every day to be the best day of our lives, which I think is something that we can like circle back to. I just think that was one of my favorite things that has actually been said to me as a coach, because I just think my ability to connect through being silly and goofy and not feeling like I'm being too much of that or I'm not being enough of a professional or whatever the narrative that you can spin around that is. That was something to me where I'm so connected with who I am and I'm so confident in who I am that I'm not worried about if I'm going to look too much of something, because I also know that I know the boundary. You know what I mean?
Totally. I'm so glad you brought that up because it is definitely something that I've struggled with, and I'll probably do another episode on like all of that, diving deeper into feeling like I'm too childish or like unprofessional, even though we are very professional. But I feel like especially as young female professionals in male-dominated industries and like departments, it's just like amplifies that feeling, because I don't want to, like, we already get looked at like we're young and like we're women.
Well,
so it's like, especially
being close in age to the people that we work for or we working in athletic departments, we're close in age to the student athletes. And so we want to come in and draw a line and a boundary, but without losing ourselves and who we are and what makes us who we are.
And I think we've both gotten really awesome compliments from your athletes and my like student workers and stuff that of just like that we do a good job at that. It's like the higher up people, they're the ones I'm worried about. 100%. And it's like how they're perceiving like the interactions.
Something that I have thought about as my first full-time coaching job, I was 24 when I got to Nichols, was this is such a cool time in my life. Like I will never be the 24-year-old assistant ever again. And there's just so much power in that. And I think I've really leaned into that. And I think you've done a great job leaning into that as like the power that you have to connect with the student athletes in your role because you are so close in age to them. Like 10 years from now, I'm not going to get to use that I am close in age to them and I was just there doing it. I get to use other things. But at this time of our lives, leaning into, I am young and I was just there and I can be both professional and be your coach and support you, but I also can be myself and be young and enjoy life as I do naturally.
And I feel like that kind of speaks to just like other ways that we can kind of combat feeling like we're too much or too sensitive or whatever, is just to like, I've seen recently a lot of on like TikTok and stuff, just like do it scared, do it anxious, do it feeling like you're too much, like just do it anyway, because the more that you practice, you know, speaking up or being goofy in public and people giving you looks and like you just do it, like maybe you're like inside you're freaking out, but like doing it anyway will slowly over time allow you to freak out less and less and less and be like, oh, nothing bad has happened the more that I do it.
100%. That makes me think about, and you know this, but my word as I entered 2023, so a year and a half ago, was I was like, I want to be more bold. Yeah. And in 2023, I didn't really define what that meant. I didn't say, well, this is what it means to me to be more bold. I just felt like there was something that I was holding back inside myself and I wanted to be able to be more bold. And over time, as we entered 2024, I was like, okay, I need to define this. I need to realize what this word means to me. I used it with my pictures and they really leaned into the word bold. And I think I've learned what being able to live bold means for myself. And it is that do it scared, do it anyway, go after what makes sense to you, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else, even if what you're doing seems like too much to someone else, it's enough for me, or it's making me feel really fulfilled in my life. Why would I care if someone thinks it's too much?
Right, because it actually just like does not affect them at all.
And to me, being bold is attacking life fearlessly and doing it scared. Being scared and doing it anyway. Right. Or not being scared and being so confident about it and doing it, but being able to live life in either mindset, whether you're scared or you're not, but doing it anyway.
Especially in like workplaces or places where like respect is something that has a high value is like just stand your ground when people are saying, even if they're not saying the words exactly, but giving you like that feeling of like you're being too much or you're, I don't know, living up to their expectations or whatever. Like just stand your ground and be like, okay, if that's how you're gonna feel about yourself, like it feels like you're kind of projecting onto me that you think that that's too much, whereas I am just like living my best life, and maybe you're like a little jealous that you're not having as much fun as I am at work, or you're not like connecting with people as well as I am. Like I think
100%.
It's like just stand your ground, and then other people will actually be like, okay, maybe I'm the one that's like
no,
it's
wrong here. Literally when I was younger, and by younger I mean even in college, and even like as a 26-year-old, this is something I'm learning to understand. But back when I was younger, my mom would always say, if someone wasn't treating me right, my mom would say, oh, they're just jealous. And I used to hate when she would say that, because it made me, I'm like, Mom, they're not jealous, because that almost insinuates that they have something to be jealous of, and I think that is an uncomfortable feeling sometimes.
It's like a negative connotation.
But as I've gotten older, I really do realize when someone is acting in a weird way towards me, or is not nice, or is dimming my light, it truly has to do with their own insecurities, and maybe they potentially are jealous because I'm experiencing life in a way that they want to, or they don't know how to. But it's so funny to me, because I understand now why my mom would say that, because that's just true. What's true. And I think it also takes this pressure that I put on myself to have to be so perfect, and if someone's treating me wrong, it has to be because there's something that I'm doing wrong. And obviously I will never be afraid to admit if I've done something wrong, but most of the time in those situations, it's rooted in their own insecurities.
100%. My mom has said similar things to me growing up, like jealousy, or she would always say like it's their stuff, like it's their stuff that they're going through. And I used this word projecting like a million times already, but like that's actually what it is. Like they are looking at us living our best life, being outwardly our authentic selves, and they're genuinely, and like maybe they don't even feel jealousy, like they're not like even aware that it's jealousy.
They're not over here
be like I'm
actively
jealous but that's what the root is of it, is like they look at other people, and not even just us, there's probably other people in their lives too that are living outwardly as their authentic selves, and they're like, why can't I do that?
100%.
And it's not even like from a malicious like intent, it's just like that's what it is though. And it's like it's so crazy to think about, and like I'm sure we've experienced that, and like I say this in every episode, like I'm not perfect, I'm no better than anybody else. Like I know we all have times where we look at people online and we feel jealous of their lives and things like that, and it's like, well, I actually can do that too. And like that's like the mindset shift that we've had to have, is like if I'm looking at somebody that's like confident in a space that I want to be confident in, like why can't I be confident in it? Like I use that as inspiration 100%. Rather than being like mean or jealous to that, like about them, you
100%. And something that like segueing into a different almost outlet of how to deal with feeling like you're being too much, or having people treat you like you're being too much, is something I've adopted over the years. Is I have a list of people whose opinions matter to me. And if you are not on that list, I don't really consider much of what you have to say about me. As when I go to bed at night and I think about how I lived my life, I'm not, your opinion of me doesn't matter enough. And I think I have different lists for different areas when it comes to work things. Obviously, my boss's opinion needs to matter for work, but if it's about me and how I'm living my life, does it fit in the same category? I don't know. But I think being able to adopt this idea of like, I can't have a laundry list of 30 people whose opinions matter to me, because if I do, I'm always going to feel like I'm too much.
Right, and some people are going to agree with how you're doing, and then some people aren't, and you're never going to live in like your reality, because it's like some people approve and some people don't. Like all 30 of those people aren't going to have the same opinion. So
100%.
It's like that list is such a good idea. Like that's a takeaway from this episode. Like go write in your notes app the 5 people that opinions matter to you, and there can even be tiers of like, okay, these 5 are like people whose opinions matter about everything, and then there's people like that maybe I'm not going to go to. It's like we were talking about earlier, like there's different people for different scenarios in your life.
100%.
But this also reminds me of, and we've talked about this in other episodes, of just like reclaiming whatever phrase we're trying to 86, just taking back the phrase like what too much means. One, we're just really passionate people. Like, it's not like, I don't even want to say it's too much, because like it's not to us, like it's other people, and that's what this whole podcast is about. Like, we're actually not caring what other people think. Not sure if you noticed. But yeah, it's just passion, right? Like, I'm just passionate.
I think we are people that we experience the world so deeply.
Yes.
Like, I love deeply. I feel deeply. I enjoy moments in life so deeply. And that also comes with, like, that's also, living like that is both a positive and negative.
100%. It's hard.
It's really hard. Like, I mentioned this earlier, but Allie and I had this realization in Costa Rica, so 3 summers ago. We had literally the best day of our life, and nothing will top it until I have children and get married. After that, we struggled because we wanted every day to be the best day of our life.
100%.
And I've realized that I'm someone that I wake up in the morning and I want it to be the best day of my life. And I think that is a really great thing about me, but it also is really a struggle, and like having to come down and recognize like the mundane is also really great.
Yes.
But I think what people don't realize is, as we live this too muchness, that is like a positive thing, but also there's things that we experience so deeply that it can be a struggle for us as well.
100%. Like, we are both very empathetic people, like I said in the beginning. Like, we feel not only our own emotions, other people's feelings, and like take on, like when we care about somebody, if they're struggling, like we feel that. And that's like, again, a gift, because we're able to really make them feel valid in those moments. But then like we're also physically feeling sad for them, and like that is the struggle part of it. And it's like, I wouldn't trade it for the world, but like that's just like the truth of it. And it's not like, oh, we feel so deeply, like feel bad for us. Like, no, it's a gift. Like, it's actually like a superpower. And we both love it and are grateful for it, but it's not like something that like is just all sunshine.
Yeah, it has both ends of the spectrum. I never understood, and I'm gonna forget how she phrases it, but Glennon Doyle in the book Untamed, I never understood like how my sensitivities. I always felt ashamed for being like so sensitive, and when I read Untamed, the way she phrased people that are too sensitive, I'm not going to remember right now exactly how she says it, but it made me recognize, I think it was like feels deeply and experiences life deeply, and just the way she turned like this idea of what being sensitive means for me as like a positive thing in the world completely changed my perspective. Again, we keep saying feel deeply, but it's truly a superpower, but superpowers come with both ends of the spectrum again. It's a blessing and a curse to have a superpower, and like we all come into this world with our own set of superpowers that for each person, like for us, we experience and feel life really deeply, and that has both ends of the spectrum. And for someone else, that whatever their superpower in life is, like they experience both ends of the spectrum as well, and that's just what like experiencing life is.
Right. Who has now joined us in the podcast, the podcast Nook, because he is a cranky boy in there. But going off of the reclaiming the phrase being too much into being more of just like, we're just really passionate people, Carly actually found this Instagram post and she sent it to me, and we were both like, holy crap, that is a definition of us if I've ever seen one. But it says, passionate people can't settle for a normal life. We're destined for greatness. We're destined to have the greatest love story, friendships, family, adventures, lifestyle. We're meant to find magic and create magic. It is our purpose, and our passionate heart knows it. And that really blew our minds.
It gives me goosebumps, and it makes me emotional, because I think that I felt really misunderstood in my life. But I think being misunderstood is, at times, it's because you don't know yourself enough. And I think as I've grown and as I've gone to therapy and as I've just surrounded myself with people that are more like me and make me feel like a better version of myself, I've understood like the power of my passion for life and what that means, and that like phenomenal relationships, friendships, whatever you want are out there. It's just finding people that are also as connected with themselves as you are.
That's what I was just going to say, is that it's also like, yes, if you aren't able to understand yourself, you're going to feel misunderstood, but also realizing that other people need to be as emotionally mature to like understand you, and that kind of takes away like the pressure and the like you feeling like you have to be so like you have to make everyone else understand who you are. It's like no matter what you do, they're not going to understand because they're not at a space where they're like capable of understanding.
I saw a post probably around the same time that was like, people can only meet you as far as they've met themselves, or emotionally connect with you as far as they've emotionally connected with themselves.
So good.
And I think that also, again, it takes the pressure off of you to be this perfect person who, no, I can reach them, I can connect with them.
Yeah.
No, babes.
Yeah, you can't. And
if they haven't done it, like, you can't.
It's such a good point, especially for like dating too. People like tell you time and time again like they're not able to connect, and we're just like, no, like, we can make them like understand us. And it's like, no, we can't.
If they have to want to know themselves
they
first.
have to do the work, and it's a blessing when they do it, but it's also like not our job to make them do it. Like,
no, it's not. And like if that means that you miss out on someone great because they haven't done the work yet and they need time to do the work, like you were meant to come into their life when you did, and maybe you helped them see something, or even if you didn't, like it's not our job. But I just think like that has helped me reframe my perspective of my dating life, of even friendships, because if you can't meet me if you can't meet yourself where you're at, you can't meet me where I'm at.
Yeah. That also reminds me of a book that I got Carly for her birthday 1 year, 2 years ago, I want to say.
Yeah, it was, my birthday is the end of January.
Yeah.
And
it was after.
Literally, I had been talking about on New Year's of 23 that I wanted to be more bold and whatever that looked like. And then for my birthday, Al got me a book written by Case Kenny called That's Bold of You.
Yeah.
And it's one of those books. I think sometimes my challenge with self-growth books is they feel very redundant. Yeah. And it's like page 200 is the exact same thing that you read on page 50.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't always finish self-growth books because I'm like, okay, I get it. This one got better as I read it, and I feel like it's written by someone who's like our age. Yeah. And I think what the power in that is, I felt really connected to his words and his perspective because it was written by someone who is experiencing life as we are in this generation, and in the struggles that we experience in our lives in this generation in 2024.
Right.
So there's so many things from this book that connect. He uses the word too much a lot as like being too much is a good thing, and he actually in the book is like reframing what being too much means as like, no, it's a good thing. But I think a quote that just really embodies what we're talking about is, he says, you know what's attractive: confidence to be weird and different, an ambition to enjoy life, curiosity about the world, a goofy sense of humor. And I think that just like when I think about who we are as people, like we're curious about the world. When we say we want every day to be the best day of our life, it's because we're curious about experiencing and living life to its fullest. And we're goofy. Like we are goofy people. And I've never met someone that I can be as goofy around, maybe besides my sister. And like it's easy with your family. I think everyone needs to read this book or listen to it on audiobook. Because I think it helps connect with yourself and meet yourself where you're at and lean into like being too much, whatever you are too much of in other people's eyes, like lean into that because it's probably your superpower. His ability to connect through his language to the audience he's intending is like, I wouldn't give this book to my dad because I don't think he would connect to the words quite as much. But again, I find so much power in the way he writes because it's for us and that, it's really cool.
No, I'm really excited to read it, and I'm gonna hold it up for our YouTube viewers. It's another yellow book. The other book I had on here was yellow with, I think, pink or red writing, so this is really interesting. But it's just this yellow cover that says That's Bold of You, and everybody should get it or listen to it. I'm definitely going to listen to it because I'm in my audiobook era, as you guys know.
I think what really helped me connect so strongly, and I think one reason I do feel so strongly about it is because it was also at a time that I was like knee deep in therapy, and I when I started reading this book, I'd probably been in therapy for like 3 months at that point. And I think it was like doing therapy and reading the book at the same time helped me connect to a part of myself that I think I was struggling to understand.
No, that's awesome. I also just pulled up this poem from Instagram. I think it's a poem that Lindsay Rush wrote called She's a Bit Much. And the first time I read it, I was like, wow. So I just wanted to share that here, and I'll probably post it on the podcast Instagram as well for everyone, but bear with me, it's a little long, but it's powerful, so just listen. She's a bit much. You mean like a bonus french fry at the bottom of the bag, like a champagne shower, like triple texting good news, like buying coffee for the person behind you in line? Or did you mean she's a bit much, like unexpected upgrade to business class, or theme parties, or the band pretending to go off stage and then coming back for an unforgettable encore? Perhaps you were referring to that thing of being astonished by a sunset, or how puppies flop around when they learn to run, or the way people take karaoke really seriously. Maybe you just mean sprinkles, confetti, balloon drops, witty comebacks, generous tips, fireworks, water slides, serotonin, cherries on top, and the fact that maybe you were put on this planet to simply enjoy ourselves. Then yes, I agree. She's a bit much. Aren't we so lucky she's here?
I'm emotional because as I'm reading that, it's like, to ever think that anyone would refer to any of those things as being a bit much.
Right.
Because I read that and I'm like, that sounds like a unbelievable life to be living.
Right. That last line of, and the fact that maybe we're here to put on this planet to simply enjoy ourselves, like, is it. That's like the key to this. Is like, yeah, whatever you are looking at me as being too much as is actually me just like living my best life. And that's all. I say this in every episode, like, all we're here to do is like be the best versions of ourselves, have a good time while we're here. Literally, no one asked to be born, right? We are just put on this earth, and in all of the existence of earth, there has been horrible things going on in the world, and we are just here to have a little sliver of peace. And it's like, just let people exist.
And to like take up space.
Yes.
I know that is something like that we talk about,
Totally.
is taking up space in this world, and physically, mentally, emotionally taking up space, like walking into a room and not being afraid of being too much, not being afraid of showing your personality.
Right.
Because we are meant to live in this world and be on this planet to take up space.
A little bit of like defining what taking up space means to us. Like, I think we have similar definitions, but you can obviously chime in. To me, it's like when you walk into a room, just exuding you, like whatever you are, just like being that in every space that you step into. I know sometimes we have so many stories of like watching people or ourselves like get physically small when somebody shuts us down or makes us feel like we're too much. Like, I know you have examples of like girls, women being literally like cringing up when somebody says something that shuts you down. And it's like, hold on, sit up, stand up, put your shoulders back, stick your tits out, and go. Exist.
I have never felt too much or negative about who I am when I'm standing up and taking up space.
Right.
And I preach this to the women that I coach because I can't tell you how many times I feel like I'm in rooms with them and you're talking to them and ask them questions and they literally curl in and shrink. I don't know where it's rooted in their lives, but it's like the easiest way to feel better is your body language and how you adjust. And I don't know, the taking up space, I think I first really learned the power of this statement in yoga and just like literally laying on your mat in Shavasana, taking up space, but like doing nothing but feeling energy and being where your feet are or where your mat is and taking up space and like connecting to a part of yourself that is so much deeper than what it is on the surface is like literally take up space in this world. You feel energy different when you take up space. And yeah, it's just like you're here to be the best version of yourself and do something great, whatever that is for you.
100%. Like, that reminds me of even being in Costa Rica teaching the high school girls that were 16, 15, 14. We had 14-year-olds that were freshmen in high school coming, like the most like moldable, like formative years, like little humans coming, and we were just fresh out of college, like not professionals, but they looked up to us because they wanted to be us. They wanted to be college athletes. They just really valued our opinion, I think. And I think all of us made really big impacts on those girls. But I remember one of the workshops, we made them like stand up in like superhero poses, like hands on hips or just like arms up, and we would physically make them take up as much space as they possibly could with their bodies. It immediately makes you feel good.
Especially for young women and girls to hear that message and understand what it means from a young age to take up space and have role models. And I think, I mean, you've mentioned this, and like having people that look like you, seeing people having role models, and like the time that we're living in where women's athletics are dominating and like women won 65% of the gold medals for Team USA. Unreal. And like having role models where, I mean, I most certainly felt like I had a ton of role models that I'd watch on TV, but like I grew up in a time where I'd turn on ESPN and SportsCenter would be on, and I was obsessed with watching SportsCenter when I was a kid, but I also really questioned why there wasn't women on, like why they weren't showing highlights of women's sports. And I think I probably said that I would write about 700 strongly worded letters because I didn't understand why there wasn't women. But now we're living in a time where like it's everywhere, and I think the confidence and just what that means to take up space and seeing people that look like us taking up space in ways that 100 years ago like couldn't even been thought of is just so empowering. And I don't know, it's just like Simone Biles taking up space in the gym, like she is not too much, she's like incredible amount of space is being taken up by her, and should, you know, I just think it's super empowering, and telling yourself that you deserve to be here and you deserve to take up space and you deserve a seat at that table, and like you are perfect just how you are in that moment.
My mom always says this, like, you never know who's looking up to you. And like, I don't even think I told you this yet, Car, but do you remember Ella from Florida, our summer? She DM'd me after I started this podcast sharing how like she was struggling in school and how like hearing these words like meant so much to her, and I told her I would bring this up. So Ella, I hope you're listening. But she shared a really long message with me. I literally was like in tears.
No, that's amazing.
She said that she's been doing this thing where she has like an amount of F's to give, and she like designates some to like her family and to her friends. That's cool. Realizes at the end of the day, if somebody is like being mean or is like upset or she called it an F bank, if there's no more F's left in the bank to like give to like these people that are just bullying her or whatever, making mean comments, and she just lets it roll off her back. Like she physically cannot care. There's nothing left to give to this. And I like was literally in tears because I was like, like we're doing it, like we're making an impact. And it's like, I don't care if no one listens to this. It's Ella that we're doing this for. It's the little like it's the one person that takes one thing away from one episode that it's all about. Like,
no, that's amazing. I think like we obviously our friendship started, and I'm circling back to this because it started in the most beautiful way, and I think why our friendship is so powerful is because our friendship grew while we were supporting the development of young women, and like that also meant ourselves. When we were in Costa Rica,
oh my gosh,
it was like we were growing just as much as they were. We were learning from them just as much as they were learning from us, and I think it's just so powerful because you're right. When you're doing things or you're scared and you do it anyway and you're being bold, you don't know the impact that you can have or who's listening and I just how powerful that also is. It's like it's a two-way street where you're like you're just as empowered by her as she is by you.
Exactly. And it's like, of course, we're not influencers with millions of followers, but again, it's the two people that take one quote from this that like are going to go out in the world and exist differently and exist as a better version of themselves. Like that is what it's all about. Yeah, but like we were saying, like this is just, I think it's a really cool episode because not only is it my first guest, but we're in episode 4. We're kind of at a month in, and this felt like a really good episode to kind of just the culmination of all the things we've talked about so far on 86 F's to Give. And I'm looking forward to having more guests on, and like thank you so much, Car, for coming on. This was so much fun. But yeah, I hope you guys took a little bit away from this. We just get so passionate.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm honored that I'm your first guest, and I think there's obviously we're passionate people. That's a lot of what we talked about. And what I think is so cool about us doing this podcast together is this is quite literally how we interact with each other in the apartment. I mean, we talk about things this deeply. And again, circling back to what our friendship we built on was being able to have hard conversations with each other and trust.
But also empower.
Yeah, and empower each other and have the hard conversation of, hey, I think you need to stop talking to yourself like that, or hey, I think you're better and you deserve to take up space and you're not doing that. I think you're better than what you're giving yourself credit for. And anyway, it's how we interact and naturally, and I think just being able to share these thoughts to whoever listens to it out there, it's just super powerful. And like, we both deserve to take up space in all the ways that we want, and everyone listening, you deserve to take up space and be exactly who you are. And if you ever feel like you're being too much, it's exactly right.
Yes, so remember to 86 that feeling of like you're too much, and if no one's told you recently, we love you and we're so proud of you, and you're kicking life's booty. So keep it up, and thank you for listening.
Love you.
Thanks for coming on. Love you. Yeah.